Oh, we've got Sarah's notice of motion. Finally got to it, Sarah. Over to you.
Thank you. This is quite straightforward. It's just to do with work that's been ongoing now for some time, and clear that we need to set a date. I mean, I've got a speech written for the debate, but I don't think that it needs much of an introduction. Okay. So do I have a seconder for the motion? Aaron? Any discussion? Sarah? Or I can wrap it up if you like.
Sorry. Oh, okay.
Question?
Pauline?
Yeah, look, I'm really supportive, but I'm just wondering about, I know this work is already ongoing, and you've got a time frame in here, the end of March 2019.
This has been checked out with the Chief Executive. Yeah. That's acceptable.
So the time frame, well, I don't know.
It's the time frame that we had in place. Sarah did actually had a much tighter time frame, but we've negotiated to what's actually possible.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
You don't mind me asking that?
No, not at all. Sorry, I just, yeah, kind of. So you're happy to debate? That's a question. Oh, okay.
So I just support, obviously this notice of motion, but the one gap that still seems to be apparent is the resources. So is this report going to include what resources are necessary? And I hate to bring up the issue of microphones, but it's becoming on a weekly basis at our community board a major issue where people cannot hear what's being said. And yeah, well, for some people might appreciate that, but I can assure you, for the people that are attending in the audience,
sorry, this is a discussion about community board delegations and the partnership agreement walk. So it is not. No. I understand what you're trying to do here, but seriously, this is what always frustrates me about these things. That's a separate issue. The microphones is a separate issue. This is about implementation of community board delegations. So it is about the resource. The resourcing is for implementation. The microphones is a separate issue. That's not about delegations. You can exercise a delegation with or without a microphone. So, the delegations is a separate issue. Tim, did you have a?
I just wanted to say that we went and got microphones ourselves. This is not. This is totally separate. If it's such a big issue,
I've already ruled it's a separate issue. All right.
Can I just say, depending on the, I'm not sure why I'm answering this, but depending on the delegations will depend on what resources community boards need in support. And so we would need to have a view of that to then really understand what resources are required, how we might need to reallocate the resources that we've got, or to redesign how we provide that support. Yeah. The community board has to agree.
The council doesn't like to install cameras or microphones. Well, we just
You could meet in here. You could. I mean, we could make that arrangement, couldn't we? So, seriously, how many people have got questions on this? You have a question on the notice of motion. What's the question?
Question regarding to this content of this kind of delegation partnership member. Because this morning you take example as the McMorran, regarding to the temporary quarry issue. So this my question is, if a council based on the delegation register to the community board will take a lead to make the submission during this kind of the territory issue, whether it's from beginning to the end to the community board, and with the fully support community board, with the expert advice and with the sufficient maybe the financial support, etc. to the end. Even he particularly emphasized, if during the appeal on the environment court, whether staff still continue, or just first stage you support. After that they have a dispute, appeal on the environment court, you just stop.
Right. No. Well, that'll be on a case-by-case basis, I think.
Yeah.
So by
case by case.
Yeah.
No, case-by-case basis.
But yeah, even case by case, but you still put on the board delegation partnership agreement to mention those paragraphs.
Yeah.
Case by case.
Delegation already exists.
Pardon?
That delegation already exists.
Yeah, I understand, but their concern is whether it's
Not
to the end.
Yeah.
That's just something that we need to negotiate in that case.
I'm willing to donate it to the community board.
It's the end of the day.
Okay, Phil?
Through you, Leanne. I just want to go back to what Carleen was referring to by way of there'll be additional reports. And I guess in terms of resources, how we as a council are going to manage some of that, particularly because that is already an issue. So are we developing a plan to actually address that?
Well, it may be that actually might reduce some of the resources if decisions can be made at one point as opposed to coming through several points. So that would be an opportunity. But I think it's, when I talk about resourcing, for community boards to make decisions, they need to have the right information. And so it's making sure that they're able to access that to be able to perform those duties. So, but we need to know what those delegations are to really understand then what does that really imply, what do we need to do.
Thank you.
Okay. Glenn?
Thank you.
Sorry, I forgot your name for a minute.
That's all right. It's just one that came up this morning in the course of discussion over the South New Brighton lease and having to go to government, essentially, I guess, in order to do something that comes up so often is the granting of leases and the fact that it's tied up in a sublease thing. So just getting advice on that. Yes, yep. Well, we've been called for asked to ask questions.
Sorry, I missed that.
Andrew, is it another question?
Yes, please. Yes.
Of whom?
It's the Chief Executive who's answering questions, is it?
All right.
All right. Sorry, I missed Green.
So we can be clear that the report, when it comes with presumably recommendations, options, and so on, that will match whatever the outcome of our decision-making is as council in terms of granting delegations to community boards, if that's what we do. That will be matched with appropriate resources.
Well, that's we need.
Because what we wouldn't want to do
is
to be in a position where a number of options are put in front of us,
yep,
and there are resourcing implications from decisions that we might make, realising that we might make decisions which are different from any recommendations that you bring to us as well, we will need to be able to quantify the effect of the resourcing implications of any decision we make. Because I mean, I'm aware at the moment that there is work that the community boards do or attempt to do, and sometimes, I mean, it's not necessarily the physical resources that are available, it might be the advice that's available in the room and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
which
that's
sometimes
right.
is lacking.
And that's a real challenge. So without knowing what those options might be, it's hard to actually say, yes, we can provide this, or no, we can't, or is there a different way of providing it?
But I guess my question is, in bringing options to us for approval, that will involve a discussion about the resourcing that would be required for each of those options, so we're making decisions in that knowledge. And then my second question, clearly this is a piece of work that was already underway. Clearly from your previous comment, there's been some discussion around the date by which this is able to be achieved. Was March 2019 the date at which this was going to be achieved, notwithstanding this notice of motion?
No. Well, it was. This has been a long project, and there have been changes in terms of who's leading it and managing it. So we would have liked to have it happened earlier, but within our own systems, we had already identified that March was the time that we would be able to bring it back, with a view for decision making to then be implemented.
So what we're doing today is just formalising that by way of a
notice of motion.
This notice of motion, assuming it passes, just formalises what you're doing.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you.
Right.
I've got just a couple of questions. Firstly, where do we find that information that's already, where do we access what's already been done? Is it somewhere on our hub?
Well, we had some workshops. I don't know if we've got the information still available.
There was an email sent out to Mike last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember we're having a discussion around, whether it's in a workshop or somewhere, around a whole list of delegations and some discussion around those things. It was a workshop.
The workshops scheduled in the project plan. Perhaps I can ask the project team to, through your office, Carleen, circulate that to councillors.
Just pop it in the hub, perhaps, and send a link.
Start a new thing.
And just a second question in terms of, within this discussion, will there be an opportunity to talk about how we address the individual delegations that a community board will have and the comparative impact that their decision will have on the whole of the city? So will there be that kind of lens involved here as well?
Yes, I'm looking to...
There will be some things that won't be delegated for that very reason.
Yeah. Right.
So, for example, as I said before, you know, the 40k debate before, I think we need to make a decision as a council as to what the policy is for the city, and then stop pretending that we're consulting with people about it, you know.
Well,
no, but... No, that's right. That's what I mean. There's no point telling one community that you can make a different decision because you've got a different community board.
Let's not make these decisions
right,
now.
because once we have a policy in place...
It was a waste of time today, just saying.
Once we have a policy in place, then decisions need to be made in conjunction with council policy.
Correct.
Unless you've got, that's right, which is why
and that doesn't necessarily
really
mean that it's being done by the community board if it's a council policy citywide.
So I'm just concerned we're trying to figure that all out now. So let's do that in March. That's right.
Yes, I'm so glad we've had this discussion today. Let's open it up for debate. I have a mover and a seconder. Would anyone like to speak to the motion? Sarah.
Thanks. We have talked about community board delegations and the partnership governance agreement for some time, and much of the work has already been done. But the last time there was a council resolution on it was July 2017, and that was simply a provision noting that current work was happening. And there's never been a formal date set for getting the work completed. This has meant that every time something else that's urgent has popped up, the delegations have been put on a bit of a back burner, not because it wasn't important, but because it wasn't urgent. However, with the council term two-thirds through now, it has become urgent. And having a date set in place just reinforces the fact that we want to get it done. We value the principle of subsidiarity. The decisions should be made as close to those who are impacted by the decision as possible. And it's time to get this done so that it is up and running and well established prior to the next election. The resourcing issue is an interesting one, as whoever makes the decision, the advice will be needed, whether it's us or the community board, not just the community board. It's a case of allocating those resources to the right place, not necessarily needing more resources overall. The ability for community boards to submit on local resource consents or to the District Licensing Committee are currently constrained by the wording of current delegations. Yet other community boards around the country are able to do both of those things. Some of the other parties that have been raised recently are things like renaming local parks or approving a school care crossing. And we also need clear guidelines on what makes places, projects or programs metropolitan ones. It's the partnership agreement and how we work together in the best interests of our communities that is the most important though. We've already made moves in the right direction with more joint workshops and the now well-established excellent monthly community board reports to council. We need to strengthen our community boards, to value them and the role that they play in our communities, and now is that time. We want our residents to look at our community boards, to the value that they add to their communities, and to put up their hands and say, I want to be part of that. It's time. Let's value our boards, give them the delegations they deserve, and build a new, strong partnership with them, because that's what's best for our city.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. I declare the meeting closed.